We got to start with Tyler Biadasz. This news broke yesterday, not long after we went off the air. I hadn't even gotten out of the studio yet. Toby had just gotten on the air with overtime, and we found out in a pretty surprising move. I'm not going to go as far as saying stunning, but it was really, really surprising to see Washington cut Tyler Biadasz. This is a good offensive line. This is a solid starter. I'm not going to say he's excellent, but he was just outside of the top 10 among centers via PFF grading. He's the sixth highest paid center in the league, and so if this was a cap-strapped or cash-strapped team, you would say he is a cut candidate. Because they've got all the money they need, and frankly, they never spend the money they have, this idea that they're creating $2 million in cap space this year, and if it's post-June 1 with the designation, $8 million over a couple of seasons, doesn't really matter. They're taking on a bunch of dead money. And what I'm surprised by, Danny, is they're creating a need where they did not have one as a team with 1 million needs. You feel pretty good about the line. You feel okay, and I would just say fine about center. He's adequate. He is solid. But this team that has the messiest house of all time, think about it like a house party that just ended. There are things broken. There is trash everywhere. There's popcorn on the floor. There are red Solo cups on every counter. They just walked in the door and just poured more chips on the ground. Like, you already have a lot to clean up. I am surprised by this, I got to say.
Yeah, you made an extra pool of malt liquor for no good reason. I don't get it. Now, again, that doesn't mean I'm angry. It doesn't mean I'm going, what are these guys doing? There has to be some sort of corresponding move here. But play this out with me. If the rationale is Tyler Biadasz and what was his cap hit this year? I think it was going to be I have a defensive tackle for you. Do I have a candidate for that? You got a guy that's making third or fourth most defensive tackle money who I guarantee will not be performing up to that contract. What are we doing there? And they can't wait to pay Deron Payne to play for them. Now, I'm not suggesting that one automatically has something to do with the other, but it's a thought process thing, right? Where if you're going, we can't overpay guys that aren't going to deliver that value. That's generally a philosophy that makes sense to me. But as you said, you've created a need where there wasn't one. Maybe there's a corresponding move coming we don't know about. Maybe they love Allegretti in that role. I don't know what I don't know here, but it just seems curious where you go, is that couple $1 million that you'll save if you do a post-June 1st, spreading out $8 million over 2 years, what did that really get you?
Well, the present cash is $2 million, right? And if you look at it that way, like not a cap space move, but a cash move that they can then use to spend immediately, as you said, there are other ways to get cash. So I have a hard time believing this is just a strictly financial decision. So then you go, okay, well, if it's not really about the couple $1 million, if it's not really about cap space, then what was the point of this? And the only thing, assuming there's something we don't know, if there's something we don't know where either there was a falling out with the staff or some kind of injury thing they're worried about, and I don't think that's the case, by the way, then we're just all throwing darts at the wall. But otherwise, this is a performance thing where we're all watching Tyler Biadasz saying he's an okay player. He's not their best offensive lineman, but I would say center is, other than just calling out protections, probably the least important of the spots to be really, really good. And maybe they feel the same way, and that's why they don't want to pay $11 million. But I thought they were adequate. This is not a team where the standard is to have a star at every position, to have an A player at every position. If you're ranking their 53 guys from last year, I find it funny that everyone now has a take or the tape, and they're showing the clip where he missed this or did. We want to do that with everyone on the team? This is a terrible football team last year. There's a lot of that tape to go around. So it's interesting to me. I can tell you that what I have gathered is they do not believe that the fall-off will be significant from Tyler Biadasz to Nick Allegretti. There are people in the building who last year felt like Allegretti could have started and that it would have been very, very similar in terms of how he played versus how Biadasz played. Nick Allegretti's not cheap. He's on the third year of a 3-year deal. His cap number is up over $7 million. So it's not like he's making no money. He's paid like a starter himself. So if he's going to be your starting center, fine. If he's not, you probably have to restructure that deal or extend him to knock that number down a little bit. But I'd imagine at the minimum, Danny, Nick Allegretti's now going to get a chance to compete because they really do, internally, it sounds like, think he was every bit as good as Biadasz. And if they just do that, In a vacuum, it's not the craziest thing in the world, but it would be the kind of move you make if you don't have a whole lot else to do. If you're a good team without a bunch of questions, they have needs almost everywhere. They have to sign close to 30 players that might make this roster.
And now it's 31, quote unquote.
Why are you adding to that pile?
So, again, if this was we are up against the cap and we need every cent, I can understand it. Maybe it pretends that there are huge moves coming, which I'm not, wouldn't bet on, so to speak. But it's puzzling to me, is all. Like I always like when I can see it too, whether I agree or not, right? I like to think along with the executive, like to see the plan. And when I can't, I get a little frustrated. I'm not slamming the gavel. I'm not telling you this was stupid or dumb or this is a bad call or this is, Rivera and Marty Party-esque. We have no idea. There's going to be corresponding stuff, and we'll see. But objectively, just me outside calling balls and strikes, I would go, let's say you want Nick Allegretti to win the center job. Couldn't you just have him compete and do that? And now you got a more expensive backup center in Biadasz, right? Like, you're not saving that much this year. It's not as if you have to have it. If you were up against it or you knew some major moves were coming, okay, you do what you can and you find some six-rounder to back up, or maybe you think that guy's already on the roster who could be Allegretti's backup now. You created a spot where I don't know what the upside is to move on from him. Does that make sense? Like, to me, I'm going, let's move on from Deron Payne. I know it's an $11 million dead cap hit, but I'm going to get 2 starters out of that. I'll use that cap money, the 17 that I'll be saving on a couple different spots. Maybe I roll it over for 2 years, do a post-June 1st. But to me, there's more upside there. There's not much you're getting with this cap savings.
Well, I also want to know what changed, right? Because you go back 2 years ago to the offseason of 2024 when they originally signed Biadasz. And he came over from Dallas, where he and Dan Quinn knew each other very well in that building. And he basically followed Dan Quinn here. And if you remember, they call him Badass, not Biadasz.
He's a Biadasz.
Because he's such a badass, right? And that was the thing, is like they were big believers and big fans of this guy. Now, I do think they talked a lot less about him this year than last year. And maybe from a 10,000-foot view, you can kind of put your tinfoil hat on and say they weren't as smitten or enamored with the performance. And I guess that's true. But that would be my question, is what changed and when? He was one of their marquee additions.
Yeah.
In Adam Peters' first
one
free
of the first
agency
guys, right, that they
period.
signed? Yeah.
We'll go through the 2024 class, by the way, because I went back and I wrote everything down that they did. But they only signed a few guys to 3-year deals. It was Tyler Ott, who's a long snapper, and I barely count that because that's like super safe, super easy money. But it was, in terms of actual players, it was Frankie Louvu, who got the most money, who's coming back on a 1-year deal. Dorrance Armstrong was coming back still with the final year of his deal. And then you've got Tyler Biadasz, was the third guy on a 3-year deal with real money. Down the board a little bit was the fourth of the veterans that got 3-year deals in that 24 offseason, and it was the aforementioned Nick Allegretti to be guard, center, versatile, possible backup, what have you. And now he may end up supplanting Biadasz. But this is actually the first guy that they chose and gave a multi-year deal to that they are moving on from before the end of his contract, which I find interesting as well.
This is again not me criticizing the move per se. It's me telling you all I don't quite get it yet. Maybe something's coming where I'll go, oh, I see, right? And so we don't have the corresponding moves just yet.
Well, to that point, a lot of people keep asking, well, does this mean they go get Tyler Linderbaum, who's the best center in the league and available in free agency? Or do you think they'll spend big at center? And to that I say, that would make less sense to me. Right? I mean, part of why you're moving on from Biadasz, Danny, doesn't it mean that you really don't want to spend a lot at center? You've got this okay center who's the 6th highest paid guy, and the rumblings are that they don't necessarily think they need to pay that because they have Allegretti in-house. What sense would it make to go make center one of your biggest splashes now, to go from a 5 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10 when you have a bunch of positions where you don't have a number yet?
Right.
You're replacing a 0.
Yeah, and this happens before they cut Marshawn Lattimore. You know what I mean? Like the no-brainer of all no-brainers. So I don't know, man. It's when I can't see it, I get frustrated, and that's a me issue. This is a Danny issue. This isn't a you guys or a Peters issue, or whatever. You don't have to explain moves to me or make moves so that I understand them all the time. When I can't see the corresponding thing yet, or I can't see the next move, it bedevils me to a degree. So yeah, I'm trying to see through it like you guys are. But I was really surprised by it yesterday. I was taken aback. I thought. That's not what I would have had on my bingo card. Like, if you told me short of some sort of legal transaction. I guess we know Lattimore has some charges or some allegations pending, but short of something crazy happening, Marshawn Lattimore would still be on the roster before Tyler Biadasz got cut. Like, crazy to me. I would never have won that bet.
That's the other funny thing. Don't tell me about cap space and they needed the $2 million. Marshawn Lattimore, $18.5 million in cap space is just waiting to be had. Right? They already have
let me do it. I'll make the call.
They have $70 million as we speak right now. We just found out today that the salary cap's up to $301 million. So they go into this offseason with $70 million, which always sounds like more than it actually is. By the time you sign a bunch of these veterans to one-year deals to fill out your roster, you save your money for the draft class. It's not necessarily as wieldable in free agency as you would expect it to be, that big number. But they've got enough to do everything they want to. And they always roll over money anyway. They never actually spend all their money. This organization hasn't been close to doing that, run by this group, ownership, front office, and even before that, dating back to Bruce Allen, who I always thought was a little bit frugal. He was not a big-time spender. So this idea that they needed $2 million in cash, we'll see. I mean, if they go out and they try to win free agency on day one and day two and they get aggressive and they pull a Jaguars or a Titans or something, which I'm in for and I'm excited about, then okay, I get it. They needed their $2 million. But I think there's more to it. I think maybe this is them just not loving what they saw. I don't know enough yet about the tweaks they're going to make schematically up front with David Blau coming in, but I wonder about that too. I can't imagine that Biadasz coming from Dallas and what they were running when he was there, and then early on here in Washington, the success he had in year one, I can't imagine they feel like he wouldn't fit with whatever Blau wants to do, because I'm guessing it's going to be very Detroit-like, right? Some zone blocking, but there's some pin and pull stuff on the outside. Like, I don't think they're going to reinvent the wheel here. I think it's basically what we've seen with the Bears, the Lions, the Vikings, some of these teams. And I think Biadasz would fit fine. But maybe there is something to that where they go, we didn't love it. He might not be the perfect fit. Allegretti is just fine, and it's cheaper. And if that's all this is, again, in isolation, this is not anything that I'm annoyed by or frustrated by. I'm more curious about it. And I don't understand generally when bad teams with a lot of holes create new holes. If you have an okay player, that's okay when you're in their spot right now. Okay players are better than the alternative. When you have so many things you've still got to get done. I just go back to the analogy of you open your car door and there's trash all over the floor and you've got to clean the windows. You can barely see out the front window and you're like, huh. And you just toss another wrapper in there and you're like, I got to clean up anyway, so what's the difference?
What's the difference?
I'll just spill my soda on the ground.
Like if I'm the Lions, I make that move today. Right, where they're over the cap right now, and they want to tweak and want to improve and want to get better. If I'm, the Texans, a playoff team, the Jaguars,
it's a good way to put
13 games. Yeah, I go, listen, this sucks, but we have to make corresponding moves. We've got to upgrade. We've got an in-house alternative that's a little bit cheaper. Fine. Right now, you are not in the business with this roster, in my view, of turning away anybody that could help you at any point in time. There's no way this year you would need him to play some football for you. None. There's no chance unless you know. Sight unseen now before he even shows up on campus, dude, this guy cannot do it anymore. Like we were watching, you and me, the Rubes on the outside, we don't know the difference. This guy, by the end of last season, I'm making this up, simply could not play. And we can't afford to do this anymore. We not a single second. We have other options. We'll take practice squad Peter over that guy. Okay, I guess it makes more sense. But it's just hard for me to see it that way. Seemed fine to me from the outside looking in.
Fine is the right word, I think, too. Like, I wouldn't tell you – I've always said when he comes up, you've got him under contract and he's solid. That's kind of how I feel about him. Whereas Tunsil's excellent and Cosme is Pro Bowl caliber and Connerly has a chance to be, really high ceiling, legitimately good and be a hardware-type player who's getting awards. Like, Biadasz is just a serviceable piece, and you can build good offensive lines that way. PFF just ranked the Commanders just outside of the top 10 for 2025 in offensive line rankings, right? And they didn't even mention Biadasz in the rankings, which is kind of the point. But they talked about how well Chris Paul played, Josh Connerly getting 1,000 snaps, the only guy that doesn't really come off the field, Tunsil being one of the best players in the league again, 3.3% pressure rate, third at the position again this year. But think about the O-line conversations we were having a week ago to right now. When I talked about the O-line with you on this show this month, what I have been saying is it's nice to have a position group where you don't really have a lot to do. And now all of a sudden, You've got to pay Laramie Tunsil. I don't think there's a big question there, but until it happens, it's a topic. Chris Paul is a pending free agent at left guard. Maybe you're plugging in Brandon Coleman, but that's a new starter potentially at a spot where he played for a couple weeks and they benched him. They didn't like what they saw. Now you've got a center that you're filling in, so you might have a new starting left guard, a new starting center, and we're waiting on the Tunsil extension. And if it doesn't come before camp, maybe he's holding out or something. This is the home base for me. Like, this is the position group I've been selling as continuity, reasonable, and it just seems a little self-inflicted to now make it more of a question mark. I'm not saying you cut a world beater. They didn't just get rid of Tyler Linderbaum. They got rid of Tyler Biadasz. They're very different guys. But I think you went from not having to worry about the offensive line to now having work to do there in a very short time.
Yeah, so let's say Allegretti takes the job, which I think is the plan. Okay, you went from fine to fine. But, again, if this was a $10 million cap savings, I'd go, yeah, I get it. Makes sense. It's not. It's small. It's less than you're going to pay Tressway. I don't know. I don't see it. This is you can just bench him. You can make him the backup, right? You can put him in the Allegretti role where he maybe comes in at guard or plays center if need be. Linemen get hurt.
Or have a competition. Because I don't really believe they're going to just name Allegretti the starter at a presser next week. They're going to try to sign someone who will come in that is nowhere near the price tag of Biadasz to compete with Allegretti, to push him. Well, if you're going to have a competition, you could just have these guys. I mean, again, a guy that came here with Dan Quinn because Quinn loves the makeup, the character, all the other non-football stuff that he knew from Dallas. The 11th ranked center via 40 in PFF's grading this year, 12th out of 40 qualified centers in run blocking, 18th in pass blocking, so top half of the centers that they graded out in terms of number of snaps.